Hey guys, Technomentary here with the video for you guys. In today's video, we're going to be comparing the iPhone XS Max with the iPhone 6 in a head-to-head comparison where you look at the hardware, the software, the overall build and performance of both of these phones in 2021 running iOS 14 for the iPhone XS Max and iOS 12 because that's the latest that you can get on the iPhone 6. But before we go ahead and get started, if you guys are new to our channel, we do a lot of tech news, reviews, and giveaways, so make sure to hit that subscribe button. Also, if you guys are in the market for one of the newer iPhones or looking to upgrade but don't want to pay full retail price, make sure you guys check out the discounted link in the description section for discounted iPhones that you can buy currently off eBay and Amazon. So let's go ahead and get started with today's video. So before we go ahead and start, let's talk about the release date of both of these two phones. The iPhone 6 here was released back in 2014 when it came out with the bigger size. It looked like the iPhone 6 kind of was huge compared to the previous generation of the 5 lineup and the 4 and the 3 and the older generation. So that's when Apple started to go with the bigger screen. And then, of course, 4 years later, you have the iPhone XS Max released in 2018, and a lot has changed. Just by looking at this overall comparison visually, you can see that a lot has changed. But internally and over the top, cosmetically, a lot has changed. And the thing we noticed between these is the size difference. If you thought back in 2014, the iPhone 6 was big, look at the size of the Max, which is huge in comparison when you compare them side by side. And they sort of have different build material between these. The iPhone 6 here just has a glass front and then just the aluminum body, and because of the aluminum body you cannot charge wirelessly and do things that you can do with the iPhone XS Max, which has a surgical grade body to it. Both front and back are glass, and it allows you to do wireless charging too. One thing you'll notice between the aluminum body and the glass body is that the glass body can shatter on the back and making the phone not even waterproof. Of course, the iPhone 6 does not come in waterproof to begin with. And a size comparison between these two phones, of course, the body is quite big. A better comparison probably would be the iPhone 6 Plus with the iPhone XS Max because they are the bigger size of it. The 6 is the regular size. You probably want to compare the 6 with the iPhone XS, not the Max, because it's not the Plus version of it. So the Apple also renamed from going away from using Plus to the Max on the newer iPhones, starting with the 10 lineup. So that's kind of a rebranding Apple has done. And if we take a look at it, of course, cosmetically, you see the dual 12 megapixel camera on the iPhone XS Max versus the single camera on the iPhone 6 here. So a lot of change, of course, because of single versus dual camera. Other thing you'll notice is sort of the labeling here. Both of the phones does have the Apple logo and the word iPhone on it. The iPhone on the Max here is more shinier, but besides that, you'll notice those little notices or the warnings and the trademark piece is gone on the back glass of it to reduce a lot of writing on these two phones. Both of the phones are slightly different in terms of weight. The iPhone 6 weighs a little bit over 5 ounces or 129 grams. Well, it's just a little over, actually, a little under 5 ounces, not over. The iPhone XS Max here actually weighs a little over 7 ounces or 208 grams. So almost, if you look at it, almost 78 grams heavier for the Max here in terms of the weight. And between these two phones, if we look at their front glass, we'll notice a lot has changed between these screen display. Let's talk about the iPhone 6 here. The display on the iPhone 6 is a 4.7 display. That's an LCD display on it. It has around 1334 by 750 pixel at 336 ppi, almost a 1400 to 1 contrast ratio, and it has a max brightness of 500 nit compared to the iPhone XS Max, where a lot has changed. Specifically, it has a huge 6.5-inch display. That's OLED display. It's not even the LCD display that comes with it. That's why it's a lot more brighter. You have 625 max nit of brightness. You also have this 3D touch that's not possible on the iPhone 6. As you can see here, if you click on it, You get that pop-up menu, which is impossible. You get that icon wiggling, looking to get deleted. Also, another thing is that because of that OLED technology, it has almost double the amount of resolution. You get a biggest resolution that we have seen on any of the iPhones. It's a 2688 by 1242 pixel at 458 ppi. It also has a 1,000,000 to 1 contrast ratio, which is nothing compared to that 1401 ratio because of that OLED. It also has Super Retina HD display compared to just regular Retina display on the iPhone 6. So as you can see, the display on the iPhone XS generations ahead, and because of that OLED piece. And also, this is where also things like pricing comes in. The iPhone 6 when it was released was almost half the price versus the iPhone X Max, which is almost double the price. It started at $1099, the original price, compared to almost $400 or $500 for the iPhone 6 when it came out in 2014. So as you can see, the OLED is the reason why Apple claims that the iPhone is much more cheaper on the iPhone XS. The other thing to note about it is the storage capacity between these two phones. You'll notice that they have slightly different, because things have improved. You'll notice the iPhone XS Max here goes from 64 gig to 256 gig all the way to 512 gig max that you can get. So if you're looking for more storage, probably going to go with the iPhone XS Max. Or the iPhone 6 here starts the base 16 gig model, which does not seem like anything compared in 2021 if you're looking for a smartphone. And this is the version, that's the base model compared to the iPhone XS, which starts at 64 gig, which almost is 4 times more storage. The max storage you can get on the iPhone 6, if you're willing to pay a little bit more, is 128 gig. Doesn't seem quite a lot in 2021 for the storage, because if you're taking a little bit of photos or videos and downloading a couple of the apps, it's already filled up. So not a lot going on it. And talking about the hardware of these two phones, another hardware difference is the chip on these two phones. Of course, a lot has changed. The iPhone 6 started with the A8 chip, and 4 years later, Apple released the A12 Bionic chip, which is almost as triple or even quadruple the times the speed that the A8 chip holds. And talking about the chip, let's talk about the battery of these two phones. There's a lot of improvement in terms of battery, and because the iPhone XS is a huge phone, it's able to accommodate a bigger battery compared to the iPhone 6 here, which has really a small battery now in 2021. If you're really looking for a bigger battery, because of that difference in the battery size, you have the iPhone 6, which has around 1800 mAh battery compared to the iPhone XS Max here, which has almost a 3200 mAh, so almost 1500 mAh difference between these two phones. And what does that really mean for a regular user? Well, to a regular user, you want to compare a video playback. The iPhone 6 here gives you around 11 hours compared to the iPhone XS Max here gives you 15 hours, so 4 hours difference. But even further down the line, if you're looking for a phone to last you full throughout the day, the iPhone XS Max is probably a phone that will last you if you're a light to medium user. Compared to the regular, if you're a light to medium user, the iPhone 6 might get you 3/4 of the day before you need a charge. And depending on what kind of phone you have and your usage level, we would probably say the iPhone XS, of course, bigger battery, will last you a lot more. And you wonder why it's not as much compared to the iPhone 6. It's because that OLED does consume up a lot of the power of these two phones. Let's talk about the next piece, which is the camera. The camera is one piece that you don't want to miss whenever doing an iPhone comparison, and that's because a lot has changed in the camera space as well. As you can see between these two phones, the iPhone 6, both of them does take HDR photos, but the one thing you'll notice is the iPhone XS here does have that zoom to it that you're not able to get on the iPhone 6. Of course, the other missing feature on the iPhone 6 to the iPhone XS is that portrait mode. As you can see, you have all these portrait mode, really enhances your photography skill, which the iPhone 6 unfortunately does not have, and it never debuted. Even the 6 Plus doesn't have it. Of course, you do have the square mode, which is possible on the iPhone XS Max. But it's probably the one thing that you'll notice if you really like the square mode. Not sure why. And then the area around the video of these two phones, a lot has changed there as well. The iPhone 6 here is able to record in HD mode, but not anywhere near compare the iPhone iPhone 10s here, which goes from 720 all the way to 4K at 60 frames per second. You're not able to record 4K, unfortunately, with the iPhone 6 here. The max you're able to get is 1080p at 60 frames per second. So if you're really looking to enhance your video skill on the iPhone 10s Max is where it's at. Also, the other noticeable difference between these two phones is actually because the iPhone 6 used to have that old home button, the iPhone 10s Max has Face ID, which is the difference between these two phones. And you might like to have that physical home button, or you might prefer the Face ID, but that's a big difference. Starting with the iPhone 10 lineup, Apple has moved away between these two devices. And finally, let's talk about the last piece of these two phones is their software of it. So between these two phones, a lot of changes between the software itself. The iPhone 6 here, as you can see, we're only able to go up to iOS 12, and we're currently in iOS 14 in early 2021. And what does that really mean? Well, because iOS 12 is sort of at the end of its life, it still gets security updates, so you can install these updates that come out. But what's happening is some of the apps that are popular are starting to slow down, and some apps you can't even download because iOS 12 is almost 2 generations old compared to the iPhone 10s Max, which does get iOS 14, and it's probably going to get another 2 to 3 years of updates. So you're probably going to see iOS 15, 16, even 17 to a degree. Where the iPhone 6, when iOS 15 comes out, it's probably going to get even more slower, as Apple tends to slow down its older iOS and looks for to really slow things down. And you're probably going to be wondering, looking to upgrade. And the iPhone 6, that's probably one of the biggest downfalls. It's a great phone, but the hardware is not able to support the latest iOS anymore. And that's where, it's a phone that probably is good for someone that's looking to do just basic calling and texting and light browsing. That's probably about it. In 2021, it's pretty much an obsolete phone in a lot of ways. Of course, the iPhone 10s Max, because it's only 2 to 3 years old, it still has double the amount of life that it already has lasted, and something that you want to consider. So why might you buy one versus the other? Let's talk about the iPhone 6. Why might you buy the iPhone 6? Well, probably because it still has a fingerprint reader. So if you still like that legacy home button, you might also like the fact that the iPhone 6 here is around 79 grams lighter than the iPhone 10s Max. It is thinner. It has a smaller body ratio compared to the iPhone 6, and it's probably the cheapest iPhone that you can get without really not having issues with downloading stuff. The iPhone 6 and the iPhone SE 20, the first edition 2016 one, are probably the two phones that, is probably the most budget-friendly phones that gives you the experience of having an iPhone without even breaking your bank. It's probably a good backup phone, or a person that's really looking to not spend much, doesn't have much to spend, and just want the iPhone to be able to use FaceTime, iMessage, and light browsing and get through the most of your day and doing basic stuff that you would with an iPhone and not have that issue. So, and let's talk about why you might get the iPhone 10s Max. Well, a lot of course, difference between these two phones. You have sort of this newer phone in the market. Of course, it's bigger, it's huger. But besides that, what are the other things? It almost seems that the iPhone 6 does bring a lot of power. How much power? It has a 1.75 more battery power. It has almost 40% higher pixel density resolution thanks to that OLED display that it brings in. You're able to have a better camera. Of course, you're able to record 4K, which wasn't possible. It also has almost higher speed resolution. In a lot of ways, it is 4 gig compared to 1 gig. So if you're playing heavy graphic games like Fortnite, PUBG on the iPhone 6, of course, you'll probably want to get a phone that has 4 gigs of RAM compared to 1 gig. Also, because of that bigger display OLED, it's really fun when you're watching things like Netflix or YouTube, or even if you're using it for things just on the go. It's just a bigger display, that futuristic all-screen display. And the iPhone 10s Max here, now you're probably able to get half the price that you would pay for a 12 lineup. It's pretty close in terms of a lot of the features that you get on the iPhone 12 Pro Max and the 11 Pro Max, and you're not trading a lot off. You get that dual camera and it's supported almost half the cost. It's budget friendly comparing to the 11 and the 12 lineup, and that's probably why this phone is one of my favorite phones to use on a daily basis, because it packs a punch and you're not breaking the bank for someone looking to get a phone in 2021. So there you guys have it. That's our video review of it. If you guys upgraded from one to another or currently using one of them, leave a comment in the comment section. I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts are. Thanks for watching, guys. See you guys next time.